In this video, we're going to look at creating knit fringe, Pärnumaa knit fringe in alternating colors. So it's similar to the other video I have on Pärnumaa knit fringe, but this is how to knit it alternating your colors after every stitch. So you do one stitch in each color, and we only have ends to trim at the start and the finish of the fringe, so a little less tedious in haircut trimming. So this is something I have used on Nomad, the knit fringe gnome. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun making this fringe. So let's get started. So I'm gonna be working with two contrast colors for my looped fringe, and then I'm gonna select the tool that I want for the length of my fringe. Your pattern should tell you what size to use. I'm just going to use a small one. This is my handy fringe tool. Comes in 3 sizes, but you can also use a bit of card or cardboard as well. So I'm working this flat on a little flat swatch. This is also the same method to do it in the round, like on the Nomad knit fringe gnome. So I am working from a right side row, or if you're working in the round, it will also be the right side. And I'm going to work up until the point where I'm going to start my fringe. So I've just done a few stitches in so you can see a little bit easier in the middle of this swatch. I'm going to leave the kind of main color I had been working with. It's just going to hang out in the back of my work. I'm not going to deal with it until the end of the fringe. So what I'm going to do is grab my first contrast color. So I've got this lovely magenta, and I'm going to start the knit fringe in the same way I have done my other knit fringes. So I hold my yarn continental style. You can do this English throwing style as well. I'm going to insert my needle as if to purl. We're going to do what's like a purl stitch. So I'm going to take my contrasting color. We're going to leave the tail to the front, right side. That's going to be the start of our fringe. We will give it a haircut at the end. So what I'm going to do is go in purlwise. I'm going to wrap my contrast color around as if I was doing a yarn over. So I'm holding the tail in the front, just going to drape my contrast color over my right needle, kind of like a yarn over. I'm then going to pull that loop through the stitch like so. And I'm going to hold down this end with my thumb. So I have this slingshot. So what you can see is the stitch in green still on the needle. I've left it there, and then I've made this stitch my contrast color for the first part of my fringe. Now what I'm going to do is move my right hand needle here. I'm going to move it down and go through the middle of the stitch on my left needle as if to pick it up. So I'm going to come down and through it. Now as I do that, the loop that was like a yarn over on my right needle comes off, and what's going to happen is I'm going to just pull my contrast color tight a little bit, is it's wrapped around that stitch almost like a purl bump. So that is the start of our fringe. Now I'm going to be alternating my colors every stitch. So what I'm going to do now is leave this first contrast color to the back alongside my main color. And I'm going to grab my second contrast color here, my light gray. I'm going to do the exact same movement. So leave a tail to the front. I'm going to hold it down with my thumb. I'm going to go into the stitch purlwise, drape my contrast color over the needle, kind of like a yarn over. I'm then going to pull that through. And with a bit of tension, I have my lovely slingshot there. I'm going to bring my needle down and through the stitch that I left on the left needle and slide it off. That's going to wrap around the base like so. And you can pull on your contrast colors to tighten. So that is the start. And I'm going to be alternating between pink and light gray as I go along. So I'm going to take the light gray to the back. So all three colors are currently at the back of my work. I'm now just going to bring the pink contrast color to the front. So we're going to alternate like a checkerboard. So I'm going to bring that to the front between the needles, let it hang there. Now, once we've done this bit where we've got the two tails or ends of our contrast color, we're going to need our handy little tool. So we're going to start making those loops. So I'm going to pick the tool that I want for the size, and with my contrast color, I'm now going to work. Again, we're alternating colors. I'm going to wrap that around my fringe tool, and you can go either, my preferred way is kind of over top, underneath, under and up. You can go the other way, so under and over. As long as you are consistent in the direction you wrap, it doesn't really matter. So I like to bring it towards me and wrap underneath and pull up towards my needles. And we're going to be doing the same method. So I've just wrapped it around. That's the only thing I've added. So I've got this wrap here. I'm going to go into my stitch again, purlwise, wrap my contrast color around. You have to hold your tool at the same time. It's a little bit finicky. You get used to it after a bit. Wrap it around kind of like a yarn over again, pull that through, get that slingshot, and I'm going to bring my right needle, come down and go through that stitch on the left needle and slide it off to wrap around. And again, you can tighten by pulling on your contrast color. So then what we've done is made a loop. I'm going to slide this out so you can see. So I've got a loop in the first of my contrast colors that will make the fringe. So then I'm going to take that contrast color to the back, leave it back there. So I'm going to take that contrast color to the back, leave it there, and then I'm going to pull my other contrast color to the front between the needles, and I'm going to make a loop with that one. So I'm going to grab this. You can leave a couple loops on your sticks. What I'll do is I'll slide my stick back into that loop. It kind of helps hold it in place as well. So what I'm going to do is wrap my contrast color. Again, you want to wrap the same direction. So pick a direction you're wrapping and keep to it. Wrap that around first. Then I'm going to go into my stitch on my left needle purlwise, wrap my contrast color around like a yarn over, pull that through, leave the stitch on the left needle. Then I'm going to take my right hand needle, and go through and pick up that stitch. So my contrast color wraps around the base, can tighten up like so. So I have two loops. Then what you'll do is take that contrast color to the back, grab your other contrast color, bring it to the front between the needles, and I'm going to wrap it around and keep on making those loops. So as we're alternating, so I'm wrapping it around, inserting my needle in purlwise, wrapping the contrast color like a yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to pick up that stitch that I've left on the left needle, go through the middle of it, that yarn over like stitch will wrap around the base, and I can tighten and take that color to the back. So I'm going to slide my stick out moment, so what you should see looks something like so. So I've got one loop of each color going along, so I'm doing one stitch in each, and I'm taking whatever color that I'm not using at that time. It's just going to hang out in the back. So you're just bringing one color at a time forward. When you finish making that loop, you take it to the back and just bring the other one to the front. So you would just continue along alternating your colors, following your pattern, so changing every stitch for however many stitches you need to work, whether it's just a small section or it's a whole row or round. So as you finish each color, so I've just finished my gray. When it's done, you're then going to leave that color to the front because we will trim it. So you want the tail to be in the front like you did in the beginning. Again, I'm just gonna, what I'll do is snap it here, like so. So I'm gonna leave that tail to the front. Again, you can trim and give it a proper haircut when you're finished knitting. And then I will finish that last stitch in my pink, so we're alternating colors. And when I finish that, I'm going to leave the tail to the front. So just do that one last loop. Slide my stick out, and I'm going to leave that to the front. Slip the stitches that I'm not working. So then I have a beautiful alternating fringe. What will happen is when I come to, we're gonna work basically the same round again, just to kind of finish it off with our main color. So the color that we hadn't been working with, so my green, which I've just left in the back, just going to slip to where I finished with it. If you were working in the round, it'll be the start of the round. So what I will do to finish this off is work purling just over top in my main color. So I'll get kind of what's like a little garter ridge with purl bumps on the bottom in my contrast colors, and then a purl bump in the green on top. Now I'm going to purl these stitches through the back loop because as we've worked our fringe here, our stitches have gotten slightly twisted. You can purl regularly as well. It doesn't matter. You'll just have a little kind of cross in your legs of that V. So what I'm going to do is come through the back loop of that stitch, purlwise, wrap round and purl that through. And I'm just going to do that all the way around. So coming through the back loop, purling. Yarn in front, come through the back loop, purl all the way around. If you're knitting in the round, or if you're knitting kind of flat, you're just going to keep going. And this is just for the areas where you have put fringe. You're going to do this. Like so. So that just finishes off that fringe.